What is going on, guys? We're back with another video today, and it's a little bit of a different video. We normally have this whole team choices thing a little bit later on in the year, but we're deciding to do this a little bit earlier because, you know, the rosters get leaked, well, not leaked, but released by EA, you know, kind of near the game's release time. Maybe a little early for it, but the game is coming out, you know, basically in July this year, and we don't know when those are going to happen. So instead of having a spoiler on how good every team is, we kind of have to project and predict which team is going to have what and, you know, who we're going to want. So I have a list of teams I think I want. We also have the quote-unquote updated rosters we downloaded off of this game, of course. Obviously, nothing's set in stone, but it kind of gives us an idea of who is going to be what overall. Obviously, we don't know the devs or any of that, but of course, I have a list of teams. I don't want to choose anyone too great this year. I think the best team we honestly have on the roster on this list is potentially the Raiders or maybe the Packers, Steelers. Didn't really have too many crazy teams on here. You guys got to let me know who you guys want, and if it's a toss-up, we'll maybe, I don't know, I'll choose or something. But I do have a top 3/4, but I'll list all the teams that I think I'm willing to choose, and if you have a suggestion, let me know in the comment section as well. But one of the teams we have is the Redskins. And now with the Redskins, of course, one of the big names that has joined them is Dwayne Haskins, a guy that's going to be pretty damn slow in the game, can't lie. However, he should be star or better, you know, second to best dev, whatever they decide to do this year. He's going to be a decent quarterback, I think. I don't know what this guy has him rated as, decent throw power and all that. It's a good quarterback. I'm not honestly super, you know, intrigued by Dwayne necessarily, but a guy like Darius Geis is going to be super awesome. Bryce Love. They're going to have one of the best running back duos to develop in the game, I think, because they're going to be very young. Probably, you know, our leagues last at most 7 or 8 years. So you're going to have those guys for the entirety of it if you want them to be. I think they did draft a wide receiver, but even though they have Terry, I don't know if I really like that receiving core. Honestly, you know, Doxson, he's going to be 26 plus, not really developable. Paul's going to be a good, you know, number 2 to McLaurin, in my opinion, or Lauren, whatever you want to call him. But even he's going to be 26, 27 going into the next game. Tight end, you know, you've got older guys. That's not going to last you very long. The big thing, though, has got to be Montez. Of course, the rating's probably going to be a little bit higher, but super damn fast. He's going to be a beast. You also have an amazing interior defensive line. You know, Matthew, Jonathan Allen, and Deron Payne are going to be, you know, basically the best trio for their age, in my opinion. The one downfall, though, the main downfall anyways, is there's not really a fast user linebacker. That's usually what I decide on for these guys. So honestly, of all the teams I'm looking at the list here, the Redskins are probably on the bottom for me. Then the next one, we have the Cardinals. I do believe Exams. We have a tier system. We have, you know, a top 3 choice here. We could, you know, if we really wanted to fight him for the Cardinals, we could. I'm not really super interested. I do like Kyler Murray. I think it'd be kind of fun. And, of course, Andy Isabella is going to be a nice fast target. They also did get Hakeem, so they do have some really good, fun offensive weapons. But then when you get around to the rest of it, you know, tight end's a little bit of an issue. Offensive line is a major issue. The pass rush situation is horrendous. Linebacker, you do have Hassan Reddick, who's going to be a very good user, but obviously still a guy you have to develop yourself. Cornerbacks, definitely not that big of a deal. You got Budda Baker, who I think I would probably move him back to corner if you're allowed to. And then, of course, Byron Murphy. Some decent names there. Cardinals, I don't really think that's a team I'm interested in. A team I'm really interested in, however, we've already done it before, is the Packers. I would love to have, you know, Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, wide receiver. Really didn't get anyone new, not really anyone super fun, but I think I would actually try to user Equanimous St. Brown. He was a great year 1 guy in Madden. I just never got around to actually, you know, making him a beast. There's some decent wide receivers, some young guys. Jake Sternberger, I don't think they're going to make him that good in the game. However, I think in real life, I think he's going to be a great player, honestly. Offensive line is perfectly fine. There's some really good players for the Packers. A little bit on the older side, though, I must admit. Pass rush, perfectly fine. Some young guys there. Rashawn Gary's going to be a fun guy. However, once again, going back to that thought earlier, you know, middle linebacker, you got Oren Burks. That'd probably be the main user. but not super interesting there. Cornerbacks, great cornerbacks. Great DBs, honestly, for the future as well. One of the best young defensive backfields in the game. You're going to have these guys for a long time. So the Packers, even though we've done them before, we obviously did them on an offline. We tried to do them in the legacy/primetime, but that didn't go through. But I think the Packers would be up there, top 5, I would say. So let me know if you guys want us to bring the Packers back. Then you have the Ravens. The thing about the Ravens is it's an even worse situation than the Cardinals, in my opinion, for actual wants. You have Lamar Jackson and Marquise Brown. Those are really the only two guys that would draw me here. The running back situation, I'm not really a huge fan of. Tight end, I do like Mark Andrews, so I will say that's definitely a plus. What else do we have? Offensive line, definitely a plus too. They got some good offensive linemen. They had a pretty decent draft in general, to be honest. Defensively, though, pass rush, not a huge fan there. And then, of course, the user middle linebacker situation. Ban Bradley, that's like your best fast user you can use. Cornerback. DB situation, not super great. Earl is kind of older. Tony Jefferson's slow as hell anyways. So the Ravens, they're on my list, but I don't think they're a team I want. Now, a team that I really want to be, but I don't know if not only would you guys be not interested, or if even my own mind would be interested, but the Broncos. I think the Broncos are a super sleeper. Drew Lock, I think, could easily have the second best dev you can get. I think he'd be a star dev kind of guy. He's going to be in the 90s for throw power. He's going to be a very fast quarterback. I think he ran a 4.59 if I'm not mistaken. At worst, 4.69. So he's going to be at least in the 80s for speed. So he's going to be a great starting quarterback. Lindsey, of course, 24. He's going to be 25. That is rough, can't lie. But he's still starter caliber. And then wide receiver, that is a little bit of an issue, I will say. Cortland Sutton. They've got a couple of young guys you can develop. Tight end, they do have Noah Fant and Jake Butt. Noah Fant would obviously be a huge factor. That's one of the main guys I would want to use if I became the Broncos. However, one of the big issues is offensive line is a bit of a problem. And then user linebacker, there's really not many guys that you can user. This Joseph Jones guy, I don't know if he's even on their team in real life, but there's not a whole lot of fast guys there. Cornerbacks a little bit on the older side. So Broncos, I think, are a super sleeper going into the next game. Maybe they let you move Sua Cravens back. I thought he retired. Did he not retire? I don't even know. I thought he did, but maybe not. So the Broncos are up there. They're like top 6 for me. A team that I think may have inched its way into the number 1 spot, though, may be the Buccaneers. You have Jameis Winston, who's going to be 25 in the game. Perfectly fine. I think we used Jacoby Brissett at 24, so it's not much of a difference, and he is a little bit better starting out. And then you got Ronald Jones. He's super fast, probably one of the fastest running backs in the game coming up. Wide receiver, perfectly fine as well. You've got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I can't remember if they took a guy as well. They may have. I'm not really sure. But the main reason to choose them, besides O.J. Howard as well, who's a huge piece. Last year I chose the Chargers basically based on Bosa and Hunter Henry, is the defense. Offensive line, a little rough, can't lie. The defense, the one thing that does worry me, though, is the pass rush. I'm not a huge fan of the pass rush core. We'd probably have to trade for someone kind of young or at least fast early on, I think. But you have Vita Vea, super beast tight DT that'll be on the team for a long time. Shaquille Barrett would be that primary pass rusher early on. Is he actually on their team? I don't know if he is, but if he is, that would be the primary pass rusher early on. But the huge thing, obviously, Devin White potentially coming in as one of the best middle linebackers in the game to user, unless Devin Bush actually stays 20 years old in the game. I would say Devin White is going to be an insane user at 21 years old. And then another one, Jamel Dean. He ran an insane 40 time, I believe, of a 4.3, if I'm not mistaken. Sean Bunting, not super slow either. So you have 3 starting cornerbacks here, plus the guys they took last year who are good trade bait or good, starters themselves. So you have yourselves a lot of options here. So I think I might choose the Buccaneers. Honestly, I'm thinking Buccaneers right now is the team. Let me know what you guys think. That's going to be the top 3, number 1 for sure. Got more into the top 3 in a second, though. We now have the Steelers. The main thing bringing them, of course, would be Juju Smith. That's the best best offensive player in my opinion. I think James Conner is going to be decent, but once again, he was very slow in this year's game, without a doubt, and even his trucking wasn't that great. Hopefully they can bump him up to an 88, 89 speed. That would make him usable, I think. Tight end is an issue. Offensive line, even though it's okay for the moment, it is very bad technically, because not only is it worse than before, it's on that regression stage ASAP. Unless they, fix it again and, linemen last till 32 until they start regressing, it's not going to be a good look. Defensive line, you have Stephon Tuitt. Hayward's not really going to be viable too long. Hargrave is all right. TJ Watt's a great pass rusher. Bud Dupree's a good, fast guy, but he's not going to really develop too much. But then you have Devin Bush, of course, the main man on the defense, the main guy you want to be using. Super fast. 20 as of right now. Going to be 21 in July, so there's a chance he could be 20 in the game, knowing EA, unless they update the rosters. Justin Lane was, I believe, a second or third round pick, so you got a decent, rookie corner to work with Mike Hilton as the number 2 probably, maybe even number 3. Safeties, not bad either, Terrell Edmonds. So the Steelers are a decent team as well. I don't know about Big Ben's contract and all that. That would be worrisome, but Steelers are up there. And now here's the number 2 defense. Not two defense. This is the number 2 team in my book. The Titans. You have Mariota as the starter. He should be 25 at most going into the next game. You have Derrick Henry, 25-26. He's a beast. He will regress early, though, because he is a running back. And then you have potentially the most stacked Madden wide receiver core. You have Corey Davis, Taywan Taylor, Tajee Sharp, A.J. Brown. There's a lot of young guys on this roster. Definitely a piece or two you can trade. Jonnu Smith, that's a guy you could definitely develop. He's a little on the shorter side, but he is kind of fast. That's a good piece. Offensive line is very good. There are a couple of guys that are old, but it's a great offensive line. Jeffrey Simmons is a good pick for them. I would like to see another pass rusher. I know they do have Landry, and then, of course, they went for Wake, but Wake's not going to be a long-term guy. I would say Jayon would be the starting middle linebacker because he is on the faster side, with Rashaan Evans as the number 2. And then cornerback, you have Adoree Jackson as your number 1 corner. And then you are lacking a little bit in the long-term run. But I like the DBs. Other than maybe another corner, Titans are without a doubt my number 2 here for sure. This is kind of turning into like a what team should you choose kind of deal. And here comes potentially top 3, believe it or not, the Lions. Stafford, I'm not a huge fan of. Of course, he's 30. He's been regressing ever so slightly. He's got amazing throw power. That accuracy you cannot upgrade because he's going to be too old to do so. Another main guy that you would want to be using, of course, is Kerryon Johnson, trucking back. Super young. He'd be there for the rest of the entire, 7, 8, 9 years. Wide receiver is a little bit of a worrisome, though, because you have Kenny Golladay as the main guy who's going to be about 25 in the game, I'd say. Everyone else's struggle, is definitely worrisome, like we said. They went for Jesse James, apparently, in free agency. And then, of course, Hawkinson was their number 1 draft pick, and he's obviously a great tight end. Kind of reminds you of that Hunter Henry type. Then offensive line, it's actually one of the better offensive lines in Madden because there's so many young names. You are lacking a little bit, but you have the left side of the line should be good for the majority of it. And then obviously you're going to have to replace some pieces, so maybe not the best, but there's some young pieces for sure. And then defensive line, super good as well because you have Deshaun Hand, who's young. Probably fits more as a DT, even though he is kind of fast. So if you were to draft a good pass rusher, I'd probably move him to DT, and you'd have Damon Harrison and him as great DTs. Ashawn is pretty damn good himself, though. A little bit of slow, more of a run-stopping defensive front, but I think it's a good team. Jared Davis would be probably my primary user. Cornerbacks, not a super huge fan, but Darius Slay is pretty damn solid. Safety's rough. I would assume they drafted a guy. I don't even remember. And then, honestly, the team that would have been number 1 on my list, but damn Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, is the Niners. I love this Niners team. I just love it. The biggest downfall, I would say, would be the running back and wide receiver position. There's obviously holes on the team. Almost every team does. Pettis would probably be the best wide receiver. I know they went with Debo, but he's kind of short as well, and he's not going to be as... I don't think he's going to be as fast. Kittle, the best the best receiving talent for sure. Offensive line lacking a little bit, but they do have a couple of pieces. But the defensive line is hands down the most stacked Madden line easily. DeForest Buckner starter, D Ford starter, Nick Bosa starter. Then you have Armstead, Thomas, I wouldn't really call Blair, but Thomas and Armstead, both players that you could easily trade off. Linebackers, Quan Alexander is your user, basically. Greenlaw, I don't know how fast he's going to be. Then you have Fred Warner as the number 2, basically. Cornerback is a little bit on the older side, but that's fine. You do have, Witherspoon. You could probably start if you wanted to. Safeties are a little rough, but overall, I love the Niners team. They did make my top 3. They're kind of on that line of the Lions, though. And then the Raiders, I didn't really put them on here, but they do have a lot of new, fun talent. So, I don't know. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be very slow in the game. Didn't really run too well at his pro day. Receivers, they really just have Tyrell and Antonio, which aren't going to last very long. So, I wouldn't really even give them much of a look, but I just threw them on there because they're kind of fun. Of course, obviously, if you want the best team possible, the Browns are probably going to have the best day one roster because they're just going to be so stacked. But these are the teams I'm thinking about because they're not too OP, and they look pretty fun. So let me know in the comment section, of the top 3, who would you choose? If not, you don't like those top 3, the Buccaneers, Titans, / probably Lions. Well, top 4, Buccaneers number 1, Titans number 2, Niners number 3, Lions number 4. Which one of those do you like the most, or which one do you think we should choose? Or one of the other teams we mentioned, or just a completely another team, let me know in the comment section. I truly need your opinion. We'll probably even have a vote on it at some point if we narrow it down even more. Subscribe if you're new. Like if you enjoyed this video. It's kind of fun. Follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr. Maybe that's where the vote will be. But anyways, hope you guys come back for next video. But until next video, see